bugler and Virginia extra tobacco and wheat straw papers, and those who'd sent off for the $1.50 rolling machine sold by a mail-order house in Memphis took out their Prince Albert cans of neatly glued and clipped cigarettes that were as good as tailor-mades. There was still a mineral-streaked piece of ice floating in the water can, and we spilled the dipper over our mouths and chests and let the coldness of the water run down inside our trousers. The captain gave his horse to one of the Negroes to take into the shallows and sat against a tree trunk with the bowl of his pipe cupped in his hand, which rested on the huge bulge of his abdomen below his cartridge belt. He wore no socks under his half-topped boots, and the area above his ankles was hairless and chafed a dead, shaling color. He lived in a small frame cottage by the front gate with the other free people, and each twilight he returned home to a cancer-ridden, hard-shell Baptist wife from Mississippi who taught Bible lessons to the Sunday school class in the block. In the time I was on his gang, I saw him kill one convict, a half-wit Negro kid who had been sent up from the mental hospital at Mandeville. We were breaking a field down by the Red Hat house, and the boy dropped the plow loops off his wrists and began to walk across the rows toward the river. The captain shouted at him twice from the saddle, then raised forward on the pommel, aimed, and let off the first barrel. The boy's shirt jumped at the shoulder as though the breeze had caught it, and he kept walking across the rows with his unlaced boots flopping on his feet like galoshes. The captain held the stock tight into his shoulder and fired again, and the boy tripped forward across the rows with a single jet of scarlet bursting out just below his kinky, uncut hairline. A pickup truck driven by one of the young hacks rolled in a cloud of dust down the meandering road through the fields toward me. The rocks banged under the fenders and the dust coated the stunted cattails in the irrigation ditches. I put out my Virginia extra cigarette against the sole of my boot and stripped the paper down the glued seam and let the tobacco blow apart in the wind. "I reckon that's your walking ticket, Iry," the captain said. The hack slowed the truck to a stop next to the Red Hat house and blew his horn. I took my shirt off the willow branch where I'd left it at 8 o'clock field count that morning. "How much money you got coming on discharge?" the captain said. "About $43. You take this 5 and send it to me, and you keep your ass out of here." "That's all right, boss." "Hell, it is. You'll be sleeping in the Sally after you run your money out your pecker on beer and women." I watched him play his old self-deluding game, with the green tip of a $5 bill showing above the laced edge of his convict-made wallet. He splayed over the bill section of the wallet with his thick thumb and held it out momentarily, then folded it again in his palm. It was his favorite ritual of generosity when a convict earned good time on his gang and went back on the street. "Well, just don't do nothing to get violated back to the farm, Iry," he said. I shook hands with him and walked across the field to the pickup truck. The hack turned the truck around and we rolled down the baked and corrugated road through the bottom section of the farm toward the block. I looked through the back window and watched the ugly squat white building called the Red Hat house grow smaller against the line of willows on the river. It was named during the 30s when the big stripes, the violent and the insane, were kept there. In those days, before the block with its lockdown section was built, the dangerous ones wore black and white striped jumpers and straw hats that were painted red. When they went in at night from the fields, they had to strip naked for a body search, and their clothes were thrown into the building after them. Later, the building came to house the electric chair, and someone had painted in broken letters on one wall, "This is where they knock the fire out of your ass." We drove through the acres of new corn, sugar cane, and sweet potatoes, the squared sections and weedless rows mathematically perfect, each thing in its ordered and predesigned place, past Camp H and its roofless and crumbling stone buildings left over from the Civil War, past the one-story rows of barracks on Camp I, then the shattered and weed-grown block of concrete slab in an empty field by Camp A, where the 2 iron sweat boxes had been bulldozed out in the early 50s. I closed off the hot stream of air through the wind vane and rolled a cigarette. "What are you going to do outside?" the hack said. He chewed gum, and his lean, suntanned face and washed-out blue eyes looked at me flatly with his question.